Managing the classroom is an important part of what we do. And so, for example, sometimes you might have students that are on the roster, but they don't arrive on time. How do you manage that so that we don't have those big interruptions to class? Some things you might do would be when students enter the classroom, have them arrange themselves so that the seats next to the door are left open. That way, those students that might be coming in late, we can direct them to those chairs, and then we can either use you as an apprentice or a volunteer or a floating trainer to go and get that student caught up. With our training classes, it's very important that we start on time. And if a class starts at 6:30, we should be starting our class at 6:30. So don't wait for late students. We might know that they're going to be 5 minutes late. That's okay. We'll get them caught up when they come in. Or they may unexpectedly come in late, and that's where having those seating arrangements is important. But it's important that we start on time because all of our other students were there on time, and we want to set that expectation. When we're training in our classrooms, we might have you as an apprentice, there might be a floating trainer, there might be a volunteer. But when that lead trainer is speaking, it's very important to remain silent. We want to make sure that whatever that lead trainer is saying to the classroom, that information is being heard by our students. Time management is really important. We want to make sure that our classes are starting on time and that they're ending on time. So it can be helpful if you have some prepared statements for general things that might come up in class. A student might have a question that you know that everybody might have. So you might address that, you might bring that question up in class so that everybody hears it as a group. But if you sense that owner might be a little embarrassed by that, then you would want to refrain from that. But we want to make sure that we're using our time wisely and we're not getting caught up talking on points that are going to kind of sabotage your time. So use your time wisely. Bring up, group statements that everybody can benefit from, or direct people to our behavior helpline. If students have questions in class that aren't directly related to our curriculum that we're talking about, we can direct them to our behavior helpline. You can either point it out on most whiteboards at class, or you can point out to the students that behavior helpline number is listed on their practice guides. As a new trainer, I found it really helpful to have a timeline. I wrote it out on a card, and I had all of my talking points laid out, how long I was going to talk, and how long I was going to demo, and how long I was going to allow the students to practice for that particular skill. Having that card laid out for me that I carried around the room helped me be efficient as a trainer and making sure that classes ended on time and that students had enough time to practice each skill. When students are practicing, it's very important as a trainer to find out little things that they might be doing well, because there might be a lot of things that they're having a problem with. And so if we can reinforce them for holding the leash correctly, that starts to set the stage and sets them up for success and hopefully reinforces them enough to keep trying on the things that they're having issues with. With our training classes, we really work hard to create a safe and welcoming learning environment for everyone. Sometimes that means we need to control the chaos. You might have multiple dogs that are over-aroused, they might be vocalizing, they might be demand barking, and how do we create an environment that's going to be suitable for learning? So as trainers, we need to come up with ways to make that happen. And so that might be at the start of class, doing a little warm-up exercise of rewarding calm behavior and capturing that calm behavior so that dogs start to learn that they come into the room and they settle down. When managing over-aroused dogs in class, some of the tools that are helpful might be a simple snuffle mat on the ground, using that food inside the snuffle mat, maybe a lick mat. Maybe we smear peanut butter in a bowl for them to have, or maybe we talk to the owners about bringing something from home. Maybe they're bringing a Kong, or we can supply them with a Kong. We can put peanut butter in there. It just gives the dog something to do between exercises. When dogs start staring at each other in class, that can be a recipe for vocalizing and a little eruption of chaos, if you will. So when dogs are looking at each other for more than a few seconds, it's very similar to being stared at by another person for a little while, and that can get you to be a little uncomfortable with that. So we can coach our owners to maybe even use their marker words when their dogs look at another dog to help get so their dogs look back to them. We can also lure the dog, maybe even putting a treat on that dog's nose and teaching the owner to lure to face away from the other dog and doing a backup recall or doing those spills. If I lure the dog, I spill the treats on the ground and I exclaim, "Find it!" During loose leash walking exercises, or sometimes even an attention exercise, our students, sometimes they don't bring high enough value food, or maybe they run out of food, or for whatever reason they're really having a hard time with this dog on this walking exercise. Maybe the dog is just a very small dog and they're having a hard time getting down low to reinforce the dog. We do have spoons, they're wooden spoons. We can put a little peanut butter on that spoon and we can teach that owner to just dip the spoon down and then bring it back up during that walking exercise, which should help build the foundation. Sometimes our students don't bring enough treats. Sometimes they bring treats like kibble, or they bring training treats and they're just not holding the value that they should in class. So that's where we have spray cheese or we have peanut butter available that we can offer to them to use during class. We also have our training pouches or their bags of treats where we can sell them for $2. We also need to teach them how waiting rooms and lobbies work, because that can get pretty chaotic if they're unaware of some of the dangers of getting too close to another dog. While waiting in the lobby with their dogs, we can encourage students and teach students to reward behaviors they like. So they might be out there practicing a watch me exercise while they're waiting for their class to start, or they might be practicing that settle and rewarding calm behavior from their dog while they're waiting. It's important to remind students that when they're leaving the classroom that there is likely going to be other students waiting to come in for their class. So we want to make sure that we're managing that so they can exit safely and they're not walking right into another dog that's waiting to come into the classroom. We can also recommend certain places for people to stand while they're waiting. You may put floor markers out and make sure students are waiting at those designated places. This is also a great job for an apprentice or a volunteer or a floating trainer to take charge of, so they can go out there 10 or 15 minutes before the class ends, because they're likely to have students showing up early waiting for the next class. It's important to remember that dogs are here to learn. They're not here to be your best friend. And so as trainers or apprentices or volunteers, or you might be a floating trainer in that class, it's really important to remember that. So be sure to limit how much affection and treats that you're giving these dogs. It's okay to greet, but just don't overdo it. If we're showing too much affection or we're giving too many treats to these dogs as they enter the room, we may be conditioning them that we are just awesome people, and they may gravitate towards us during classes and not give their owners the focus that they need. Sometimes when students come into class with their dogs, especially the first time, that dog might be a little shy. So might the owner. And so if we do a treat and retreat technique where I throw the treat away from myself and that dog retreats away from me to get the treat, they now have the option to reapproach me or re-engage with me. And again, I'm going to throw that treat out again because I don't want them to actually get to me. I just want to build their confidence in this room and give them some good reinforcement. But get that reinforcement a little ways away from me. When we're training classes and we need to go give that student a handout, that's a great time to practice this skill, such as sit. Because it doesn't look that great if we just walk right up to them and their dog jumps all over us after we just taught that specific skill. So put it to action. When you're going to go give the handout to the student, remind the student of the skill what skill they could use to reinforce their dog and to teach their dog what to do as we approach, such as sit. As an apprentice, after every class or before class, when you have questions or you see scenarios come up, discuss those with your trainer throughout your apprenticeship so that you can learn and grow with us as well, and give us feedback to how we're doing with you.